Hello, welcome to Game Dive. My name is Drake Cummings. Today we're going to be talking about E3. It's about a month away. I'm already super excited for it. And a lot of people don't understand my excitement for E3. So let's dive in. Let's talk about why E3 is special and why E3 is important. So I've loved E3 since the first moment I watched the first press conference. I got into games a little bit later than some of my peers. I got in around 7th grade, and so the first E3 press conference I watched was 2007-2008. I'm pretty sure it was 2008. It was the one where Sony was showing their statistics back when they still did statistics in a Little Big Planet presentation. It was a really creative way to do that really boring segment. And despite all that boring business stuff that used to plague E3, it was still an exciting show, and I still saw the value in E3. And a lot of the people I know in the games industry just don't care about E3. They don't understand why I make such a big deal about it, why I block out time in my schedule to watch these press conferences and watch the live floor events. And I can kind of see the skepticism, but E3 is special and it is important, and I can explain why it's important in 3 simple points. So E3 is not exactly like anything. It's kind of hard to compare it to something, 'cause, like, Warner Brothers doesn't do a presentation for all the upcoming movies they have. The Apple keynote's kind of similar, but doesn't have the same type of energy. The best thing I can do to compare it to something, I guess, would be Christmas. So if you think about how Christmas works mentally, ideally you're getting excited all year long, particularly all month long leading up to Christmas for what presents are going to be under the tree. And that anticipation and wonder of what you might be getting is part of what makes Christmas so fun. So that when you actually get to the tree and you open up the presents, it could be anything, man. And you could be disappointed, and part of that is what makes it so great when you do get the thing that you really want. It makes it all the better because you didn't know exactly what was going to be in that box. And E3 press conferences are a similar way. And that leads me to point number 1, which is specialness and hope. We have all these hopes and dreams for what could possibly be in this press conference. And just the moments ticking down to when the conference actually starts, you have all these hopes like Last Guardian, Final Fantasy Versus 13, Resident Evil 7. It's all there. It's all slightly in your grasp. You feel like you can just reach out and take it if they show it. And they could. Every single person that gets up could talk about that game. Every time the lights dim and a trailer starts, it could be a trailer for that game that you want. And it's that hope that keeps these press conferences so exciting. And that's part of what makes it so special. You know, I'm a little bit older now, and Christmas doesn't have, the same type of flair and wonder that it used to. But E3 is always going to be there for me. E3 is always going to be that beacon of hope and excitement that I can look forward to every year. Because no matter what games we're given, we always want more, right? Devil May Cry 5, it could happen this year at E3. So E3 reminds us that our wildest hopes and dreams can come true. No project is too far out of our reach. Shenmue 3 can happen, and it can happen at this show. Where were you when The Last Guardian got its release date? Or Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced? Or we learned that Resident Evil 7 was going to be in VR? I'll tell you where I was. I was right there watching. And those moments are some of the most exciting video game moments to me. They are a chance to just get excited and celebrate. It doesn't matter what that game might end up being or might end up not being. It's about, in that moment, being excited about that announcement along with everyone else in the world. Because this is an opportunity to experience this announcement when everyone else does. When you wake up in the morning and you read a article headline, it's like, cool, this is an exciting announcement, but so many people learned about it before me. I didn't feel like I was part of the announcement. When you're watching that conference, you learn at the same time as everyone else. You're getting excited about Shenmue 3 when everyone else is getting excited about Shenmue 3. So I would like to sum up this point with my favorite E3 memory, and that was 2 E3s ago when Final Fantasy VII Remake got announced. And this announcement came right off the heels of a huge burn back in December at PSX. Square Enix came up on stage and they announced the port of the PC version of Final Fantasy VII was coming to the PlayStation 4. And the trailer that they rolled with this wasn't initially apparent what it was, and a lot of us thought that it was going to be the trailer for the remake that was been long in demand. And it wasn't, and we all felt burned by it. And at this point, pretty much everyone was like, okay, this is them telling us it's never happening. We are not getting a remake of that game. Stop asking. They have no interest in doing it. And so all of us are pretty pessimistic about these chances of a Final Fantasy VII announcement at E3. And we see something that comes up on the screen, and it looks like the live stream. And we're just like, no, stop, don't do it again. And then this super good looking trailer starts playing, and it's not clear what this is a trailer of. It looks like it's Final Fantasy VII related, but maybe. It looks like it could be a CG movie, maybe a sequel to Advent Children. It looks like it might even be a Final Fantasy VII sequel, which I think will happen eventually. But we're not sure, and in the back of our minds, we're like, oh man, is it a remake? But we don't want to believe it because we'd been burned on this just a few months ago. And his trailer ends with just the back of Barrett and Cloud, and then the logo, the comet, comes up on screen, and then boom, remake. And we are so excited about this announcement. This is one of the most exciting video game announcements I have ever been a part of, and I do feel like I was a part of it because I was right there watching live. I didn't read about it later. I didn't have someone tell me about it. When that news dropped, I was there to see it. And that is what I get excited about E3, is the possibilities. So my second point, which is not near as glamorous as the first one, is equally important. After all the press conferences are over, which there could be anywhere from between 4 to 8 of, depending on the year, so that's, X number of times to get really excited about possible announcements, there is the 3 days of live from the show floor, which, even if you're not lucky enough to be able to go to, it is still incredibly useful and informative because almost every major publication has their live from the show floor at E3 broadcasts that they put on. And they sit down with developers or sometimes the PR people, and they play demos of their games usually. And this is super helpful to the consumer because you get to see where that game is at right now. This is not some rehearsed gameplay trailer that they're putting out. This is a live demo of the game, and you get to see how well the game is running right now. You get to see where that game is at, and you get an honest representation of the state of that game. And so there's not too many other events where it is as public as that. There are other gaming events, but E3 in particular is always broadcasted on so many different platforms from so many different media outlets that you can easily find this information if you are interested in the way this game plays, if you're interested in hearing the developer talk about the game. They do kind of like an interview with them while they're playing it, and a lot of stuff they don't answer, but a lot of stuff they do. So it is useful as a consumer just to see the state of these products and be able to have this access to this information. And point number 3, I think press conferences and E3 in general is good for business. I think it drives these companies to be better. I think companies, they fight harder for exclusives. They work harder to make better games because they want a good E3 press conference, because it helps boost public sentiment, and public sentiment leads to more console sales and more game sales. And why does this matter for us? Because we're the ones who see the benefits and the results of this. We get better games and more games because these companies are fighting harder to get our attention. I think something like the Shenmue 3 might have happened without E3, but I think Sony threw money behind it in large so that they could have that announcement at their E3 press conference. And without that Sony money, maybe that game wouldn't be as big as it's going to be. And I think that goes for a lot of announcements. I think sometimes these companies make the deals they do so that they can have a better E3 press conference, and that is only good for us. It keeps these companies on their A game, and it keeps them in constant competition. Remember when the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One were being announced, and Xbox had all that DRM stuff, and then Sony, almost as a direct response at their press conference, made fun of the fact that Xbox had DRM and they didn't, and then Xbox dropped it. That, again, might have happened anyway, but the fact that it was on the world stage at that press conference, I think really had an impact of public sentiment, and that forced these companies to better themselves. Without it, we might have had DRM on PlayStation 4, or Xbox might have never gotten rid of it, or taken longer to get rid of it. Either way, it seems like these press conferences had an effect on how these companies do business, and that is helpful for us. Better E3 press conferences means better sales for them and better games for us. Lastly, I'd like to make a request to the games industry at large, developers, publishers, media. Stop announcing stuff early and stop with the leaks. Let me address the announcing stuff early first. So I understand the impulse as a company to announce something before E3. There can be a lot of noise during E3 and you want to cut through it and get your announcement out there beforehand so everyone notices you. But it just makes us care less. Pre-E3 announcements are not as fun as E3 announcements, and then if that pops up again during the press conference, we're already a little bit checked out, because what we want is to be surprised. Humans like to be surprised. It's part of why the press conference is exciting in the first place, and if we're seeing something we already know about, we're that much less interested because we're just thinking about that next thing that we don't know about that we want. So if you're going to have something in a press conference, just wait for the press conference. If your game or trailer isn't going to be in a press conference, announcing it early is a little bit more understandable. And now let me discuss the leaks. If you are out there leaking stuff, you are a scumbag. Like, stop. That's a scumbag move. People worked really hard to put that together. People worked really hard on the game. They worked really hard on the presentation. And it's not just the developers, it's also the marketing team who worked really hard to develop how that game was going to be released and how it was going to be presented. And you are taking all of that away from them by leaking an image or a trailer or anything. You are taking away the specialness of that announcement. And so we are also hurt by this. Aside from not being surprised and not feeling special anymore when we do see it, we're also seeing that stuff out of context. We're seeing this image in this trailer or even just a blurb about what it's about before we are meant to see it, and we can extrapolate things that might not necessarily be how they wanted this game to be presented to us. And so you hurt everyone by leaking stuff. And if it's a controlled leak, if a company is sliding you this information, asking you to leak it out, then that is back on the original company, and that reverts back to point A that I was talking about, where it's just wait for E3. We will care more if the first second of the first trailer or screenshot that we see for this thing is during a live press conference. So there you have it, the 3 reasons I think E3 is special and important. It gives us hope, it informs us, and drives these companies to do better. I will have more E3 videos to come. I hope that you can equally get excited for E3. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.